So after your undergrad degree, I will list out the three positions that you had, and then you kind of just walk us through that. So after you graduated, you were a staff analyst slash solid waste coordinator at Western Riverside Council of Governments. Then you became an associate planner at Hoggle, Ireland, and then you were the founder of artist, principal organizer, and project curator at Art Volupes. So tell us about those experiences.
Let me see. So I was living in LA, right? And at the time I guess you could say, well, how do I describe this? So when I went to Santa Monica College was also the time when I got married, and my wife and I decided that we would go to Riverside because that's where her family is after graduation. Once I completed my work at Season, so that's what we did. So I came to Riverside in the first job that I had was with the County of Riverside Planning Department. I was there for about 10 days. And there's many reasons for which I moved on, but basically I got an offer with the Western Riverside Council of Governments as a waste coordinator. And one of the reasons for that is because the position of solid waste coordinator was related to another project that I did at Season, which was a GIS analysis of the location of landfills throughout the state of California. My goal was to analyze and see if landfills were located in communities of color. And that interest was very in close proximity to the job that I would be doing. So it was not necessarily what you would say the traditional role of city planning, but the type of work that I did then had to do with waste management, which is working on addressing how we deal with waste, with trash. It had to deal with the ideas of reuse, reduce, and recycling. And it had to do with also disposing of hazardous materials safely. And that was just an amazing experience. I had an opportunity to organize community cleanups and write rants. And yeah, that was my first experience in city government. While WRCOG is not an organization that has jurisdiction over any city or county, it is designed, or the way that it operates is to establish regional programs to create, I guess what you would say, in a sense, community of scale to be able to think and operate at a regional scale. At the time, we had 14 jurisdictions, so that's how I got to learn, I guess, the geography of the place where I was living then in Riverside. And that was just an amazing opportunity. But it was a grant funded opportunity. So when the grant ended, I had to move on, and I was able to get employment with a consulting firm, Hoggle, Ireland, and I started there as a planning technician. I think I was there for about 5 or 6 years. I ended up providing planning consulting services for the County of Riverside Planning Department, and I was overseeing the entitlement of projects in the community of Menifee, which in 2010, I believe, became, it might have been 2008, I think. It became one of the newest cities in the state of California. So I worked through that transition in between county government to city government. So that was also an interesting opportunity that not many planners get to do. But then that was 2008, and for those of you who were in I guess in the workforce, that in planning, that was one of the worst years because that was the Great Recession, and that was tied to housing, and it was a domino effect. So there wasn't really any work for planners. So I got laid off, and I was out of work for about 5 months. And I would say by, yeah, a combination of things, by persistence and a little bit of luck, I was able to get a position as a contract community planner for the U.S. Marine Corps. And I spent there about 2 years. But let me backtrack a little bit to art envelopes. So I am also an artist. I'm a creative individual. Although I don't have a degree in art, to be an artist, you don't have to have that. You can use art to express your ideas in your thinking. So for me, I was at some point in my life interested in using art to express my profession, which was um, urban planning. So I couldn't really express that through my work because that was usually planners that they don't get to work on using art to teach planning. So I created my own path, but that was done while I was working as a consultant, but on my own time. So because I had met many amazing planners over the years, I have met all kinds of incredible people in planners, but I built relationships with some who were interested in the idea of using creativity in innovation to communicate what we do as planners. So I put together that project that you mentioned, art envelopes, with other colleagues who were tremendously giving and instrumental in making it happen. We were able to assemble a collective of, I think we ended up with 15 planners and 15 artists. And all this was done, they just did it because they believed in the project. We didn't have any budget to do it, but everyone was very excited about the idea and the collaboration. And we ended up with 15 works of art that depicted planning concepts. And the collection was exhibited throughout different places in Riverside County. And obviously we invited the community to attend, and we had conversations about what planning is and what planning can do. And I remember one of the topics was actually public health. It was explored by a team of artists and a planner. And at the end of the project, we donated the collection to the APA California chapter, and that was auctioned during the annual conference. And that was just an amazing experience. And as a matter of fact, somebody just recently sent me a text about it, and I'm thinking that I need to I need to to resurrect that project. But anyway, that's a little bit about art envelopes. Oh, and that means it's a really cumbersome name, but that was just the best I could come up with at the time. So art envelope stands for art as a vehicle to understand land use planning and sustainability. And this was way before we started seeing the real implications of climate change. Obviously, we were discussing those issues back then in 2010, 2011, but it was driven more around sustainability. And now, if you hear about the kinds of conversations we're having, they're now more about resilience. It's like, you know what? It's going to get hot. You know what? Sea level rise is happening. You know what? There's going to be storms that are going to be more violent. So preparedness instead of curbing and I know we're trying to curb emissions and to change the trajectory of climate change, but the conversations are different and they're more urgent. So for me, personally, having participated in that project that was intended to have an understanding about the idea of sustainability and seeing where we're at today, to me, it's sort of like it gives me a baseline for how the conversations have evolved, not only locally, but even globally.
I love that you're taking art, which is, I guess, like you being an artist is another part of your identity, and bringing it
Yes,
back into
yes.
your urban planning work and really incorporating that. And I think like that is what we need more of, because it is these kinds of ways that we are able to share more about the more information with the public, that okay, this is how we do our work, this is the impact that it has, and not just in a kind of like presentation way, but in a playful sort of way that really helps us to better explain what we do and the importance of it. So I'm glad that you're able to do that as well.